Hello my beautiful people. I'm back from my little break. The week I was sick it got so bad I don't even remember what happened. Everything is all good now and I'm on some medication so hopefully I don't get sick again. But before we get into this video, hear me out. Now, as much as I love Bakudeku, they are a very complicated pair and have a lot of flaws. I know that, I'm pretty sure the entire fandom knows that. But that doesn't mean they can't develop a healthy bond and work past their issues. And I mean, we are seeing that development happen in the manga, so that is the truth. But I want to talk about the romance side of things. I feel like the only way they would get to a romantic level. Now hear me out, this is my personal opinion, but I feel like the only way they would get to that stage is if something serious would have happened that made them realize they seriously need each other. And they would definitely have to work past everything that happened between them. Because they definitely wouldn't just wake up one day and be like, oh wow, you know what, Deku? Despite everything I ever did to you, I'm actually in love with you. Oh. Kei-chan, I will completely forget everything now. Because I too have feelings for you. I genuinely feel like it would have to be something seriously emotional that would bring them together. Because if we are being honest, Bakudeku has a very emotional background. So what I am trying to say is that this video feels a little rushed and it's frustrating me because this isn't how I would really write their romantic development. But you know, it's cute. And let's just say that they had been working towards what they achieved in this video for a while, yeah? Okay, great. I am going to shut up now, enjoy the video. Bakugo rolled over, the sun beaming on his face. He angrily groaned, kicking his blanket off. Rolling out of bed, he walked into his bathroom, turning the tap on. He stared at the running water for a while, letting his mind fill with thoughts. He cupped his hands together, allowing the cold water to fill his hands, the water running through his fingers as he brought his hands to his face, the icy feeling soothing his warm cheeks. He grabbed a towel, drying his face off. He opened his dorm door, not even bothering to change out of his sleepwear, considering it was only him at the dorms. He decided to stay an extra day before heading home for winter break. He walked down the stairs, turning the corner, his eyes falling on green fluffy hair showing from the couch. Hey. Kei-chan. Deku scrambled to his feet, his eyes falling to Bakugo's very revealing outfit. Nothing but boxer briefs. His eyes widened, a very obvious blush spreading across his face. He frantically averted his gaze. Bakugo scowled, his face scrunching, and he let an angry huff escape his mouth. What the hell are you doing here? Alright, well, my mum couldn't pick me up last night like everyone else, so I had to wait until today. Ugh. Bakugo rolled his eyes at Deku. He kept a small smile on his face as always as Bakugo walked over to the kitchen and Deku spoke up. Why are you still here, Kachan? Bakugo let out an annoyed sigh as he continued his walk to the kitchen. Wanted some peace and quiet before heading home, but it looks like I'm not getting that. Now I'm stuck with your mumbling ass for the day. Bakugo grabbed a box of juice from the fridge. He walked over to the couch sitting opposite to Deku, basically squeezing the box dry. He turned his head. Deku was fiddling with the hem of his shirt. Oh, nerd. Why yes, Kachan? Bakugo rolled his eyes at the quick response. Before Bakugo could form the words, a loud crack from outside. The two got to their feet, quickly running to the front door. Bakugo pulled open the door, both the boys' bodies trembling as a wave of icy air hit their skin. Bakugo slammed the door shut, Deku jumping in surprise. What was that? TCH. Shut up, stay down here. Bakugo stormed upstairs, leaving Deku overthinking every worst scenario possible. Oi Deku. Bakugo walked downstairs in much warmer clothes. Kei-chan. Don't be thinking the worst, it's probably just winter setting in or some shit. Bakugo opened the door again, stepping in front of him. Not like he cared if it was a villain attack, I mean that's what they were both thinking. The snow outside covered almost everything within such a short time. Deku peeped over Bakugo's shoulder, shocked at the sight. It looked like it had been snowing for weeks, not a few minutes. Oi. Bakugo lowly growled, gently pushing Deku away from him. Don't goddamn breathe on me. Just as Bakugo was about to step out the door, Deku's phone started to ring. Oh. Kachan, wait, maybe All Might knows what's going on. Let's just stay inside to be safe. Don't tell me what to do, Deku. Bakugo slammed the door. Turning around to face Deku, he stared at him with the usual grumpy look. Deku answered the phone, his face staying serious and focused, listening to All Might's words. The phone call ended after a few minutes of humming and nodding in agreement as if he could see the boy from the other end of the phone. Bakugo rolled his eyes, still standing in place waiting for Deku to speak. What is it? Speak up. Well, before I tell you, you can't get mad. You saying that is already pissing me off. Deku smiled shyly at Bakugo. He let out a sigh, clearing his throat. Bakugo closed his eyes, grabbing the bridge of his nose. He let out an animalistic growl, sending a cold spark through Deku's body. So what I just heard is, I am stuck with you, for however long this shit lasts. No response. Great. I mean just great. Bakugo stormed back into the living room area, throwing himself on the couch. He grabbed the TV remote that was next to him, switching the TV on. He rolled his eyes at the sound of footsteps approaching. Just as he turned his head to face Deku, the TV went quiet and the small lamp that was sitting on the kitchen bench switched off. A loud pop emitted through the dormitory. Oh, you have got to be fucking kidding me. I'm sure it'll come back soon. Deku spoke, taking a seat next to Bakugo. He hated how close he sat next to him, but he felt warm and it was cold. But he wasn't going to admit that out loud. Deku awkwardly shifted his shoulders around, shifting away from Bakugo, trying not to make it seem as obvious. He didn't want to make Kaken feel as if he was taking up his personal space. Stop moving. Bakugo spoke in an annoyed tone, leaning his head back on the couch, throwing his arm above Deku's head. This fucking blows. I'm sure it won't last long, Kaken. Deku smiled at Bakugo, who didn't need to look at the green-haired boy's face to see how big the smile on his face was. He could feel it burning through his face just thinking about it. God, would you stop being so bright for just 2 seconds? Bakugo turned his head and sure enough, it was exactly the expression he thought it was. God, it made his blood boil to his face. With anger, of course. Sorry, Kaken. And don't apologize every goddamn second. It's annoying. Saw. Deku. Right. Bakugo sighed. Standing up from the couch, he pushed the small table from the middle of the floor out of the way. Deku watched confused as he pushed back the couches, clearing the floor in front of them. Kaken, what are you? We haven't fought since ground beater. I think we should reevaluate. Bakugo spoke with a smirk on his face, Deku's cheeks turning a red, waving his hands in front of him. Not inside. I don't think it would be a good idea at all. No shit. We won't use our quirks. You don't think you can beat me in combat skills, do you? Deku did not respond. He sprung from the couch, a wide grin on his face. Bakugo threw his jacket off to the side, getting in a stance. He gave DKU a few seconds before charging at him. Throwing a punch, Deku dodged. Bakugo stood in front of Deku, an eyebrow raised, a mischievous smirk still painted on his face. Ha, not bad with the fast reflexes, nair. Before Bakugo could finish his sentence, Deku kicked Bakugo's leg, causing him to fall to the ground, landing on his back looking up at Deku. The smile from his face disappeared, Deku constantly apologizing. Before he knew it, he was on the floor within a blink, a small burning sensation radiating through his back. Ouch. Deku rolled his head to the side to see Bakugo laying on his back, still hand resting over his stomach. You gotta stop apologizing for everything, idiot. But sometimes it's the right thing to do, Kaken. Bakugo rolled his head to the side, catching Deku's gaze. Silence filled the room along with tension. They both knew an apology from one was a long waited, but it was way too much to unfold in a moment of, well, if you call sparing in the living room while a blizzard is going on outside bonding, then so be it. Yeah. And they both laid there for a moment before Deku got to his feet. Bakugo stayed laying on his back. He looked up at a Deku who was holding out a hand to help him up. It pissed him off, his stupid freckled cheeks. Those stupid big green eyes, everything about him was so perfect, it was irritating in so many ways, it was indescribable. Bakugo grabbed Deku, who smiled at Bakugo, whose face was painted with a smirked grin again. Caption. Deku was pulled down, falling atop of Bakugo, only to be instantly put on his back once again. Bakugo's knee pinned in between Deku's leg while the other stayed by Deku's side. Bakugo leaned down, pinning Deku's hands above his head. Deku couldn't help but blush at the odd feeling in his stomach. It wasn't new, just odd to have occurred around Kaken. So you are going to apologize when you have to take down a villain? No, that is different. So what are you going to do, Deku? Bakugo inched closer to Deku's face, their bodies getting closer in every way possible. Deku pushed his leg out, kicking Bakugo's knee that was placed by his torso. Bakugo lost balance, his hands around Deku's wrist falling loose for a second, Deku taking that as an opportunity, pushing his hips up, swinging his weight so Bakugo fell back, now the surprised looking blonde on his back. Deku smiled, looking pleased with himself. Bakugo breathed out, his eyes narrowing. Deku was about to open his mouth when Bakugo sat up, lifting his knees in the process, Deku shifting more, sitting on Bakugo's crotch. Don't apologize. So close. So close, so close. Deku. Bakugo spoke, sounding calm in an unusual tone that sent a shiver up Deku's spine. Deku followed Bakugo's gaze. Bakugo was staring at their crotches. Bakugo cocked an eyebrow, slowly looking back up at Deku, who was completely red. It almost made Bakugo want to smile, but he suppressed it, not like it was because he was making Deku react that way. Why would I feel this way about making a shitty nerd blush? He thought quickly to himself. He leant back on his hands, tilting his head to the side as they held eye contact. Deku. Bakugo spoke in a low tone. Deku could have sworn he saw a smile tug at the corner of his lip. Yes, Kachen? Deku matched Bakugo's tone. It sent a weird flutter effect through Bakugo's stomach. It was making it harder for Bakugo to form the words. It was frustrating. They still held eye contact. Deku. Bakugo spoke again. He swallowed dry. Deku's face was getting redder. Would his face feel hot if Bakugo touched it? He thought to himself, would his face feel soft to his touch now? Why was his face feeling hot again? Kachen. Alright, this is getting too feely, Bakugo's brain screamed at him. Off my dick, nerd. Bakugo spoke up, Deku's eyes widening in surprise. He looked down and back up, clearing his throat. Could you let go of my waist? Bakugo looked down to see his hands resting on Deku's waist. He threw his hands up, his head meeting the floor again. He threw his hands behind his head. The weight lifted off him and he sighed in disappointment. Relief. He heard footsteps leave the room. I will be in my room if you want me for anything. Want? Why would I want you, shitty Deku? He muttered under his breath. A few hours after Bakugo stayed in the living room, the snow outside didn't calm down. If anything, it got worse. The snow was starting to pile up to the windows. Bakugo looked down at his phone, seeing a bunch of unread messages from the group chat and Kirishima. He opened up the red hair's chat bubble. Bakubro heard you were stuck in the dorms with Deku. Don't kill him. I mean, we all know you won't. For your information. Power's out too, man. Hope the kitchen generator is working. That sucks. You're going to reply, come on. Fine, text me when you're not busy googly eyeing Deku. What the hell does that mean? Bakubro. What do you mean googly eyeing shitty hair? Nothing. Kirishima. Bro, you cannot use my name to bribe me. Fine, bye. No wait, I just mean ever since you and Deku went through, ground beater, you started to like being less grr around him in a I'm not being obvious about it but it's obvious way. What the fuck does that even mean? You started to be less distant from him, dude. Like you stopped trying to avoid him to letting him get the C word. Shitty hair. I can't tell you what you started to feel after what went down because I don't know what went down completely, and well, they're your feelings. All I am telling you is what I got from being observant of my best friend. Typing. Feelings, what the fuck is he on about? I have not changed the way I see Deku. Let alone feel. Feelings even mean. Feelings? That I can't help you with. He shoved his phone back into his pocket. He closed his eyes and gathered his thoughts together. It was more than one thought, but so many spun off it. Feelings, what the hell does that mean? He was snapped from his thoughts when he heard a pair of footsteps run down the stairs. Deku rounded the corner with a smile on his face. Have you eaten, Kachan? Bakugo groaned in response. Deku stood behind the couch. He leant down so his mouth was near Bakugo's ear. Can cook you something spicy? Bakugo scoffed, turning his head, not really thinking how close that would make their faces. I'd like to see you try. Yeah, I'd like to see you try to cook something that isn't the spice level of hell. Bakugo's mouth fell open slightly at the shocked, sarcastic tone in Deku's voice. Are you challenging me, nerd? Alright then. Bakugo leant back, Deku's hair brushing his face. Deku jumped back, walking to the kitchen, hiding the crimson color painted over his face. He began pulling out pots and food from the fridge. Bakugo walked up behind Deku, peering into the fridge. Meanwhile, Deku's thoughts were trailing from the fridge's contents. What is going on? Why is he being less grumpy with me? I mean, it has been going on since ground beater, but now is. Hey nerd, that creepy muttering. Deku felt a warmth pressing ever so lightly against his back, so close. Why am I thinking about it so much? Kachan? Deku spoke softly as he turned around to see Bakugo standing in front of him, only a few inches space between them. What? Bakugo raised an eyebrow, still scanning the shelves looking for the right ingredients. He reached past Deku. Stepping forward slightly, he grabbed a jar of red spices. He looked down at Deku, rolled his eyes, putting it back in place. He reached up to a higher shelf, the hem of his shirt lifting, revealing his brief band and carved V-line. Deku's eyes were locked on the spot. So hard to look away. Deku's hands were so close. So close. He let his fingers outstretched. Bakugo's gaze averted from the fridge to Deku. He could feel two fingers trace up from the small amount of skin that was showing. Deku looked up, meeting Bakugo's face. His expression was so expressionless he expected it to be angry or something other than staring back dead in the eyes. Sorry Kachan, it's just you. I wish my mind was as outlined. Deku trailed off, a confused expression falling on his face. Confusion that one he was lying to. Bakugo was still just staring. Kachan? Deku hesitantly reached out a hand to inching closer to Bakugo's face. Deku stopped, his hand only a few inches away from the blonde's cheek. He searched Bakugo's eyes for an okay. Even if it was hard for him to really see an answer behind those red eyes, it still felt odd to back off now. His hand came into contact with the soft skin. Deku watched innocently as Bakugo's nostrils flared. Deku let a thumb gently rub along Bakugo's cheekbone. His skin felt so hot against his, even if it was only the slightest touch, it felt overwhelming. Bakugo's head surprisingly was empty for once. The feeling of Deku's soft thumb rubbing his face was calming in a way that scared him. Scared? A thought to his empty mind. BZZ. They both cleared their throats. Deku turning on his heels, almost immediately walking over the oven as Bakugo rolled his eyes, answering his phone. Hell. Young Bakugo. Bakugo pulled the phone from his ear, scowling at the loud man on the other end. Does Midoriya have his phone? How am I supposed to know? Well, he is there with you, right? Yes, obviously. Did you think he could walk off in the middle of this shitstorm? Well, we have Mount Lady and a few other heroes who can rescue you too. Why are you asking? Well, Bakugo, did you want to leave now, or wait for the storm to pass? All Might's voice sounded serious. Bakugo frowned, looking at Deku, who was already cutting vegetables, his tongue just slightly poking out at the side of his lips, his green curls falling in his face that he shoved back with his arm. Like that would help. Bakugo felt his face do something weird again, his cheeks growing warm as Deku made eye contact, giving a small and sure smile before turning his attention back to the vegetables. Nah, hold off on that rescue. We're good. Bakugo's words trailed off as he got caught again, mesmerized by how stupid Deku looked. Yeah, definitely stupid. Right. Well, see you when the storm passes, young Bakugo. Take care. The sound of the phone cutting off allowed Bakugo to shove his phone back in his pocket. He walked over to Deku, who looked up at him with those stupid green puppy dog-like eyes. He tilted his head, humming as if to say what. Bakugo sighed, rolling his eyes. Your hair. What about it? Here. Bakugo pulled a light blue band from his wrist, handing it to Deku, who looked at him confused. What? Don't tell me you don't know how to tie hair. Bakugo scoffed at Deku, who looked away in embarrassment, earning another eye roll from Bakugo. My god, Deku, come here. Bakugo pulled the hem of Deku's shirt, bringing him closer. Deku shyly handed Bakugo the blue hair tie, his hands resting at his sides as his fingers gently picked at his thumbs. Bakugo's fingers scratched the scalp of Deku's head. A wave of relief rushed down Deku's spine. He watched Bakugo's face. He was looking to find the right way to tie Deku's hair. He hummed, pulling gently at the strands of hair, twisting the band around, collecting a small bun of hair at the top of his head. Ha. Bakugo snickered, smirking as he pulled his phone out, snapping a picture of Deku's innocent face and stupid bun. Hey. This is going to the group chat. No, Kachan, please. Deku begged Bakugo to put his phone back in his pocket. He pushed Deku's face away, walking towards the living room. Can't have hair in our lunch now, can we? Half the day had gone by. Deku and Bakugo spent lunch together. Afterwards they sat in an awkward silence, not knowing if they should bring up the whole face-touching situation. Long story short, they didn't. Around 4 p.m. Deku went up to his room and hasn't come back down. What do I do? Talk to him, Midoriya. You do know who we are talking about, right? Kirishima's giggled. Have you even thought about what it meant? No, I mean, what could it mean? What would it mean? 1. You need to stop this overthinking stress combo. It's not good for you. Okay, got that. Deku spoke, calming his breathing. He exhaled one last time, fixing his posture, grabbing his phone from his desk, looking at a cozy-looking Kirishima who was wearing headphones as Denki and Mina played around in the background. Look, to be honest, I just don't want him to yell at me. I mean, believe it or not, he has been less snappy the past few weeks, but I don't want to set him off, you know? Trust me, Midoriya, he won't. Okay, so if I... Oh, I shit face. Bakugo's voice from outside the Dekus dorm room echoed as if time itself had stopped. Deku froze in place, looking at Kirishima, who had an encouraging expression on his face. I'm gonna go. Thank you, Kirishima-kun. Sorry I had to bother you, it's just everyone else doesn't understand the way we do. Yeah, I know. It's okay. Just talk to him, sire. Coming. Deku got to his feet, opening his door to Bakugo in an apron. He had flour on his nose and cheek. Deku couldn't help but giggle. What? Nothing, you just have a little. Here. Deku's fingers brushed away the flour from Bakugo's nose, leaving his cheeks dusted with flour. He didn't feel like making it too weird again. If before it was even weird, well, it was something. I made dinner. Really? Deku yelled excitedly, smiling at Bakugo. He squeezed past the boy, heading to the stairs. Bakugo rolled. It smells great. What did you make? Horizontal ellipsis. Bakugo averted his gaze and Deku walked up to him, tilting his head so he could see Bakugo's eyes. He scanned his face. He smiled at Bakugo's pouted expression. Katsuden. Whoa, really, thanks, Kachan. Deku sat at the table, grabbing the bowl that was placed in front of him. He waited for Bakugo to sit down and start eating before he took a bite. Bakugo watched for Deku's reaction. The green-haired boy's eyes lit up as he made eye contact with Bakugo, both their cheeks dusting a light pink, going unnoticed. So Bakugo hoped. This is amazing, Kakan. I mean, wow. Yeah, of course I made it. Deku smiled, continuing to dig into the bowl of food. Bakugo grinning, satisfied with the response he got. And it definitely wasn't because of Deku's approved hums as he dug into the bowl like it was the only time he had eaten food, or the way he would look at him with genuine happiness. Nope, not at all the reason. That was too good. I thought you would have somehow made it spicy. Well, I proved you wrong, didn't I? Hey, how come you got flour on you? Baked a cake. Bakugo leant back on the chair, putting his feet up on Deku's chair from under the table in front of him. I didn't know you knew how to cook and bake so much. Deku, I know how to do everything. Bakugo got up, walking over to the bench, grabbing the small-sized cake, bringing it over to the table. He cut some slices, placing the slices on 2 plates and sliding it one to Deku, who raised an eyebrow at him with a cheeky expression. What? Did you add spice to this? Deku spoke in a humorous tone, something Bakugo rarely heard. If he was being honest, he let the frustration back off into deciding to throw a sarcastic tone back. I don't know, maybe. Bakugo smiled, taking a spoonful of cake to his mouth. He smiled. He just smiled. Keep it cool. Deku smiled back at Bakugo, taking a mouthful of the cake. He closed his eyes, humming in approval at how the soft cake melted in his mouth. The rich icing leaves a sweet aftertaste on his tongue. Holy cow, Kachan. Deku spoke in disbelief. Bakugo responded with a shit-eating grin. A good 5 minutes passed. Deku ended up having an extra slice of cake while Bakugo sat at the table on his phone. He looked up at Deku, who was still chewing the cake, rolling his eyes, humming with delight. Oi, nerd. Come here. Deku hummed, confused. Still a mouthful of cake. Bakugo rolled his eyes, leaning forward on his seat, wiping some icing from the corner of Deku's lips. Bakugo sucked the icing off his fingers without really thinking twice about it. Going back to scrolling through his phone, Deku sat there slowly chewing, his eyes widened in a bit of shock. With all the face touching today, he shouldn't have been as surprised, but Bakugo hadn't touched his face, it had been the other way round. And it wasn't just his face he touched. It was as if at that moment Deku's brain had now just caught up with all that had happened. Apart from the phone call with Kirishima, he didn't bring up how it escalated to the face touching. He freaked out, standing up, running to his room, slamming the door behind him. OMG, my hands, they. Deku's hands covered his mouth, a red blush rushing over his face. He threw himself at his bed, kicking his feet around. Why did I do that? How am I still alive? Why did he not react? Deku's tiredness caught up with his overthinking eventually. Shit. Bakugo sighed, laying on his bed, collecting his thoughts. He thought about the way Deku's hair brushed against his skin as he leant over the couch earlier that day, or how he sat so comfortably in his lap, or how the icing tasted sweeter from his face. He grabbed his phone from under his pillow. He hesitantly opened his and Kirishima's chat. Dude. Bakubro, everything is okay? No. What's up? Don't lose your shit, got it? Deku got really touchy today, and I let him. To be honest, so did I. I'm sorry. Please define the word touchy. We were about to start cooking in the kitchen and my shirt must have lifted slightly. The nerd decided to get all touchy. Like below the belt touchy? Kirishima, no. Okay, sorry. I would have just flat out said that shit to her. Plus that is just weird. Why would you think that? I'm sorry, you suck at explaining intimacy. Oh really? Oh hush, I can hear the sarcasm dripping from that text, but maybe just think about why you didn't blow him up. Good point. Shut up. You're welcome. Now good night. Why are you still awake? Deku's eyes blinked open as he focused on his digital clock. It was 1:30 in the morning and he was still dressed, not even under the covers. He shivered at how cold it was. He kicked his pants off, crawling under his blankets. I don't know, well, for one it's so fucking cold and I hate it. Can't be that cold. We have a pretty good installation. Apparently not. I'm off now. Good night. Bakugo threw his shirt off, walking over to the bathroom. He turned the shower on. He threw his bottoms into his washing basket next to the sink, stepping into the shower only to jump out. Not even a second later he pulled his towel from the rack, wrapping it around his waist. What the fuck? He turned the shower off, walking back to his room, the light from the bathroom spreading through his room. He frowned at the way he could see his breath. He grabbed some sweats, putting them on. He walked over to his bed, getting under the blankets. He brought his knees to his chest, trying to get warm. It wasn't working. If anything, it was getting colder. What the fuck is going on? He grabbed his phone, staying under the blankets as his body began to shiver. Oh nerd, you up? Deku. Yes. Are you fucking cold? You noticed? Yeah, I fucking noticed, you dipshit. I can see my own breath and am fucking shivering. I hate the cold so much, it's bullshit. Yeah, I guess it can be a pain. Not can, is. What did you want me to do? I don't know how we can make it less cold. I agree it is a little concerning, might be because the power is out and there is no heating. Who would have thought? We could sit in a room together, maybe our body heat will make it warmer. Hey. It's an idea. Fine, but I am not coming to your almite-filled room. Okay. Deku put on his dark blue sweatpants that had a small almite symbol on the thigh area. He closed his door, hugging his hoodie close as he made his way up to Bakuga's room. He knocked on the drum door only to hear a groan. In response, he opened the door. It was dark, he couldn't really see much, but he could make out the outline of things. He began walking to Bakuga's bed, stopping when his knees hit the mattress. Catchin'? I'm not moving, it's too fucking cold. Yes, but I can't see anything. Lamp Dumbus. Deku's hands fumbled around finding a switch. He flipped it, the light orange light illuminating a corner of the room. Bakuga poked his head out of the blanket with only his red nose and angry looking eyes showing. Deku couldn't help but smile. What? Your nose looks cute. Shut the fuck up, nothing about me is cute, you shithead. Bakuga huffed out, poking his head back under the blanket. Deku began shivering as the cold became more intense. Catchin', it's cold. No shit. Well, could you come out from the covers so I could sit with you? Ugh, I can't believe I am about to say this. Bakuga mumbled to Deku. Look, this is definitely the cold talking, but could you just get under here with me? Catchin'. Wasn't really asking, Deku. Bakuga pulled up a corner of the blanket, immediately shivering at the intensified cold. Deku hesitantly grabbed the corner, holding it up. Deku, it's fucking cold, hurry up or get out and let me freeze to death without you. Deku closed his eyes, collecting his thoughts. He maneuvered his way under the covers, being careful not to touch Bakuga in any way possible. Catchin'. It's still cold. Maybe if I take off my hoodie, is that okay? Bakuga shifted back into the wall, giving Deku space as he threw his hoodie out on the floor. A few moments of silence filled the room. Bakuga let out a small sigh of relief at the warmth Deku's body was giving off. He let his hips relax, falling against Deku's. Deku shuddered at the sudden physical contact. Catchin'? Shut up. Horizontal ellipsis. What? Could I move closer to you? MHM. Deku shifted back into Bakuga. Deku shivered at the feeling of Bakuga's shirtless back against his. Both their skin cold to the touch. After a few seconds, their bodies began to warm up. Bakuga was the first one to relax, his body completely leaning into Deku. He was cold and Deku was keeping him warm, true, but that's all this was. Deku sighed in relief at the warmth spreading through his body. It only took a few seconds for his brain to start processing the situation he was in, causing his body to tense up. Bakuga felt how Deku tensed, causing Deku's back to slightly pull away from Bakuga. In response, he rolled his eyes. Deku, you can relax. Deku let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding in. He let his body relax. Bakuga hated the way his hand acted before his mind thought he pulled Deku into him, leaving no space between them. Don't say anything, just go to sleep. Bakuga spoke, grunting his words, feeling frustrated at how warm and comfortable this felt. Good night, Kaken. Deku closed his eyes, letting the warmth carry him to a peaceful slumber. Bakuga's eyes fluttered open. A soft smile spread across his face, enjoying the warm feeling at the top of his chest. The smile only lasted a few seconds before he realized the situation he was in and why his chest was so warm. He looked down. Deku's head was resting on Bakuga's chest, his arms wrapped around Bakuga's body. Bakuga frowned at the way his own arm rested around Deku's waist, keeping him close. Deku was sound asleep, his green curls falling over his eyes. Bakuga shifted, leaning up against the fall, Deku staying wrapped around him, not even stirring in his sleep at the movement. Bakuga, once again acting before thinking, found his fingers brushing the hair out from Deku's face. You're less annoying when you're sleeping. Bakugo mumbled below a whisper. Deku's eye fluttered open. Bakugo pulled his hand away from the green curls. Was someone touching my hair? Deku grogily spoke, lifting his head from Bakugo's chest. Oh, morning Kaken. Deku sat up, not realizing he was not straddling Bakugo. Shut up, it's too early for your loud voice. Deku scratched the back of his head, awkwardly smiling at Bakugo, who was just dead staring at him. So? What, do you not lay in bed for a while before getting up? Huh? Oh, I do, boo. So shut up and chill the fuck out. Bakugo nodded to the space next to him. Deku shifted his weight off Bakugo's lap, laying down next to him, trying not to let their sides touch. Kachen? Bakugo smacked his lips, rolling his eyes, looking down at Deku. What? Were you playing with my hair? So what if I was? It felt nice. You know, if you remember, you used to play with my hair a lot when we were kids. Deku spoke, looking up at Bakugo, who was frowning, avoiding eye contact with Deku. I don't. Deku sighed, turning his gaze from Bakugo. TCH, I do remember. I remember a lot, and I wish I didn't. Deku sat up, meeting Bakugo's annoyed looking gaze. Look, shit face, I know that whatever the fuck this is. He pointed a finger to himself and Deku. Means that we're going to have to bring up the past, am I right? Deku just stared back at Bakugo. He knew what he was talking about, he didn't need to reply. But I don't want to do that now, so can we please just enjoy whatever the fuck this is first? Bakugo spoke, a small blush dusting his face, and Deku smiled at Bakugo. Enjoy this, do you mean? Bakugo glared down at Deku, who couldn't help but smile. I can't know what you mean until you tell me, Kaken. You're pushing your luck, nerd. Bakugo rolled his eyes, grabbing Deku's waist, pulling him closer. Deku's eyes widened before wrapping his arms back around Bakugo. He smiled, feeling fingers intertwine with his curls. He shut off any part of his mind that wanted to scream at the situation he was in. He didn't want to let his overthinking ruin this moment with Bakugo. Bakugo also doing the same. He let the frustration and questions as to why he wanted this and why he was enjoying this melt away into the back of his mind.